1:29, I have to hang up on you.
Living on edge here.
Living on the edge. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to our all team meeting. It's so nice to see faces, although it does, we got so used to being on Zoom and now getting me back in the square. Sometimes I'm like, oh, we're not in the room. Okay, we know how to do this. Let's not worry. Let's start with any bucket fills. Does anybody want to fill a bucket up as we start our day? I want to fill Dana's bucket for her sparkling headband. I think that's awesome and cheery. Does anybody have a compliment or a bucket fill to share with the world today? Wow, so many things all at once. Is that Ashley behind you, Evie?
Yes.
Hi, Ash.
Hi.
I'm going to fill Evie's bucket by saying, we had our ALC clinic last week up in LA, and we have all these events coming on for year end. We have thank you events. We have weekly meetings. We have, are we on Zoom? Are we in person? Like, what are we doing? We have Bold every Monday. And while the rest of the world is going to bed in the fourth quarter, Evie always has to come to the plate and just run 1,000 events and parties and meetings and keep it together. Oh, and our holiday party on the 16th and like all the things and juggling all the things. And she makes it look easy, y'all, but it's not easy. So fill her bucket, say thank you. She makes my life a blessing because I don't have to think about one of those things. And it is really amazing. So Evie, thank you for all you do. And if no one else is shouting out to give some props, I mean, I can move on to our mighty welcomes.
I quickly wanted to shout out Kevin King and Amy Bloom. We were having a conversation at Bold last week, and it was just one of those conversations where they both are agents that are just leading the way in how our KW communities grow. And it's something that not everybody is involved or even knows about. So the fact that they were both taking the time to talk about a way that might evolve forward and just make the world a better place, it made me very, very happy. So that's my shout out.
Yes, I love that, Jacqueline. Nice work, y'all. And there's a lot. I want to just say that real quick. We know there's a lot, the communities, what events, what trainings, what learnings, what coachings, like there's a lot going on. I'll stress it again. Just listen to the things that make sense to you, resonate with you, and seem important to you. And if you don't know what those are and you feel like someone is blasting you with 1,000 ideas at once and it's too loud, just ask. Ask me, ask Jacqueline, ask any of the coaches, ask Robert, ask anyone on the leadership team, and we will help you figure out what is your next right thing. Is that the Elsa Anana song? Do the next right thing. Okay, y'all. Because we're not stopping. That's the reality. We're not stopping. We're going to keep growing forward. And Mark King and Gary Keller told us in Austin last month, like, I know it feels like we're putting a lot at you. And I used to feel that way like 2 months ago. I was like, there's so much coming. And you realize like, we're just going to help people find the right things for them and them as you. Okay, let's do our welcomes. We have a few friends to welcome this week. Are there slides I'm pausing for? There are. Look at that. Elisa Flores, welcome to the party, pal. I totally am loving the new vibe of the welcome flashes. Luis Navarro, and Luis is returning to us. Medina is his actual last name. And who else? Julianne Robinson. So welcome to the family, you guys. Nice to see y'all. And the market update. So if you guys came to stats last week before last meeting, I don't know, you learned
2 weeks
2 weeks ago. Thank you, Evie. I told you she's always there making us look smarter. If you came to stats, you heard Ashley say a lot of things. I was just re-listening to it the other day about how the market, it's not, is it shifting? It has shifted. It's evolving. The reality is it's always shifting. The market of the moment update is this, you guys. First of all, if you have something to share, please raise your hand and share. Open house, buyer feedback, things getting accepted. I just saw a buyer contract get accepted, like 18% under ask with a lease back. So there's stuff coming on, and I'm sure Robert will talk more about the contracts and the broker update, but it's that thing where it's the end of the year. So there are people out looking now. There are sellers who need to come to market now. The market is what we know it is right now. The interest rates are what we know they are right now. We're living in reality What we don't know is what 2023 holds. So what your people don't want to do is wait and see. Your sellers don't want to wait and see because everyone else wants to wait and see through the holidays and then list in January, February, March, right? So be having that conversation with your people now. Okay, so you want to be doing what everyone else is doing and wait it out, or do you want to come to the market now and have less competition, which will ultimately get you a higher price for your home? That's the most important part for your seller conversations. And for your buyers, it's just making sure that they have been qualified right now with the current rates. Luckily, they've stabilized a bit and they know what they're actually affording and the affordability factor for monthly income and the overall price. Right? Makes sense. Sorry, I saw the chat pop up and it fully distracted me like a squirrel. And then Evie, why don't you do our upcoming trainings and then we'll get to our SMP spotlight.
You got it. We pretty much have 2 more weeks. December 1st, so 2 more weeks of trainings. We will still have our usual language of real estate with Stephen. Thursday would be in person. Again, Thursday would be, he'll be here in the training room tomorrow, so pop by. Also, will be available on Zoom as well. And then Nick is also still doing his KW Command Essentials on Thursday. And then for those that need new headshots, we're bringing in one more time Aaron, our SMP photographer. He'll be here on December 9th, Friday. There will only be 8 spots. So if you need, new headshots, I'll post the schedules and you guys let me know which times will work for you. He'll be in the media room from 9 o'clock till 3:30. So more to come on that one. And then BB's Master the Disc with BB on Tuesday, December 13th via Zoom is coming up. That's at 3 p.m. I will post the link on our Facebook event page. And then disc. And then we will do the our holiday party on Friday, December 16th. I will blast the invitation via Evite. So just keep an eye out on that. And I think after that, that's it. We'll be holiday break.
We'll be on to New Year's and I'll start saying it feels like February and now it's December.
Family reunion will be coming up soon.
All right, I promise BB I'll stay on time for broker updates. So let me throw it to John Tanner from Green Flash Pest Control for our SMP Spotlight of the Week. Johnny, can you hear me? Is he there, Evie?
Yeah, he's here.
Okay.
He's muted.
It's that little button on the bottom left, John. And as Robert put in the chat, if your headshot is from 2001, get it updated, y'all. All right, John, go ahead.
All right, thank you all so much. I'm John. I work at Green Flash Pest Control. I'm one of the termite inspectors. I know you guys are getting into the slower season or so I've heard, but I know things are still a little busy. I wanted to represent myself and Green Flash as a company and let you know what we're all about. I myself try to represent a very personal, friendly termite inspection. I like when the buyer is there. I like to be able to give them the information and put their minds at ease. We do offer local treatments as well as fumigation and repairs. Repairs are done in-house. Fumigations are subcontracted. We also offer general pest control and other things. And I was able to work out with the management team. If you guys contact Green Flash Pest Control and mention either my name, John Tanner, or your group, the SMP group, we are not going to be charging for escrow inspections. Also, if you're just needing a general termite inspection and not requiring Section 1 certification, that should be stated as well, just so there's a limited amount of confusion. And what I did not bring up, if anyone wasn't at the meeting before, was my contact information, which I would love to provide. My personal number is 760-818-5700. Our office number is, thank you. Our office number is 760-539-7337. I am really good at text messaging. And you can always reach out to me directly. I'm home with COVID right now, but I still get messages from my clients in my office. And I'm always happy to have someone reach out to you so that you're not waiting on hold and wasting your time. I can help mitigate any of those stressors. And if I am not available, I can make sure that one of my other inspectors that I trust to take care of your clients is, and that he gives the same pricing and professionalism to you and your clients.
John, thank you for taking the time while you're home sick to come give us a message, and keep your germs to yourself. But we should let you go take care of yourself. What I will ask you to do before you go, I did throw your numbers in there, but will you please just write exactly what the agent should be mentioning so they can take advantage of the great deal through the SMP program that you guys are offering. And we appreciate, the relationship.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day.
Go feel better. Yeah.
I will. Thank you.
All right, Robert, want to take it away with coaching updates and spotlights?
Yes, I will, Sarah. Thank you very much. Let's give a shout out in the coaching program on Team Alicia. Judy Stevens took 2 more new listings. She's in growth, and Tinu closed her second escrow and launched. Congratulations. And Alyssa Flores, licensed, posted, and officially joined Team Alicia in the launch program. And a huge, huge, huge shout out to Sam and Yanni. They closed their 3rd escrow and graduated the launch coaching program. But let me just point out, this was a challenge escrow, and they both shined throughout it. And it was literally down to the wire to get the escrow closed without the seller wanting to cancel. So great job on that. So congratulations.
Thanks,
Back to
Robert.
you.
And our friends at Movement, who is on to speak today?
I'll be up first. We just want to let you know that the government's coming out with their 2023 loan limits, and they raised it to $726,200 for the conforming limit, meaning that your clients can buy a $748,000 home with only 3% down, and $977,500 for the high balance limit, meaning your clients can buy $1,028,000 home with 5% down. And I'll turn it over to Ed for more info.
That's huge, you guys. We're finally in that million price range with 5%. That's awesome. That's going to make a huge difference. Wanted to let you guys know that we took off a couple of weeks because of the holidays for Movement Mondays. We'll be back this Monday with Movement Mondays. We're going to be covering 2-1 buy downs again, you guys. These have been saving a lot of clients a lot of money, especially because the interest rates are so much lower for that first year. And a lot of the economic factors that are out there right now are indicating that rates will be coming down sometime mid-year next year, at least towards the middle of the year. So it's really going to save our clients a lot of money, and they can still get into a home. And so think about it. I mean, right now they have so many fewer competition out there. You can actually get a deal on a house. You're not bidding it up $50,000, $100,000 to get in the house. I mean, how much of a better timing can you have? I mean, you guys all went to stats meeting. You guys all took a look at the numbers and seeing how many properties are for sale out there. It's not going to change. All these people refinanced in the past couple of years at 2.5%, 3%. Not going anywhere. They're staying put. I mean, unless people have to sell, the builders aren't catching up. They're slowing down. So we're going to have this uneven balance of supply and demand. And when that demand comes back, when rates come back into the 5s and that demand flies through the roof, guess what's going to happen again? These bidding wars are going to start happening again, you guys. So let's keep talking to our clients. Please, please, please make sure that they understand all these and that there are different creative ways of financing that they can do. And we'll go over all that and explain it again to you guys and make sure that we have a class, and I'm going to record it and I'll put it on YouTube for everybody. But I still, please, if you can, Monday, 9 o'clock, we'll be online. I'll put all the information out there. And yeah, love y'all. See you guys.
Thank you,
By the
Eddie.
way, me and Matt are moving downstairs. Wes is coming with us. So come and visit us in our new office downstairs.
You can have a housewarming when you get there. And no more predictions. My conversation this morning was about how half the predictions will be wrong and the other half will be wrong too. So
Yep. We're all going to be wrong.
Reality. I'm going to give Miss Judy her 2 minutes that she has requested. Miss Judy, are you there?
I'm there. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, my dear.
Awesome. Okay. So I have 2 new listings. The one that is in Chula Vista, it is a townhouse, 3-story townhouse with 3 bedrooms on the 2nd floor. And the top floor is a complete loft with a bathroom. So it could be a 4th bedroom as well. It faces the street just opposite the school. So it's got a little patio right outside the front door. And it's absolutely darling. It is move-in mint ready. They're asking $699 for it, which is right in the comps in that area. And 1922 square feet. So it's huge for a townhouse. Anybody who can't really afford a new house or something that is really modern in their price range, this is a really great alternative. These people are super clean. They have a little baby, so you have to schedule an appointment with me if you want to see it. And that's pretty much that for that house. It's really nice, built in 2016. The second house is an interesting situation. If you have an investor or somebody with a wannabe investor for a whole property, this is a 2-on-1 in Lemon Grove. It's 26. No, that's not right. Yes, 241612 Washington Street, right near Palm and Skyline. And it is a 2-on-1. It's got one little house and one larger house. Can you hear me? Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. So they've landscaped the whole place. It's got a 2-car garage and a gated set up for more parking, up to 4 parking spaces in that small house. And it is redone from top to bottom. I'm talking about walls, roof, flooring, appliances, new bathrooms, and they've got a walk-in. There's the kitchen. Isn't that cute? And it's got a walk-in closet that's actually the size of a room. So it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, very darling. That's the second house is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with 2.5 bathrooms and a huge lot. It doesn't have a garage, but it's got an RV there. It's got room for about 5 other cars if you like. And it's got a little gazebo. It is absolutely precious as well. They spent about $300,000 redoing these properties. And it says 1949 on the listing, but everything besides the main house was rebuilt in 1993. So a good part of it is built in 1993. Now it's listed for $1.199, and that seems a little expensive for Lemon Grove. But with the amount of money they put into it, I mean, somebody wanted to make an investment and they could get like $3,600 for the first unit and $2,600 for the back unit. That would be like $62,000 a year. So it might be worth it, you know, if you have an investor like that, or somebody wants to live in one unit and rent out the other. Let me know. It's Lemon Grove, but man, it is mint. So thank you very much. Wish me luck and send me a client.
Thank you, Judy. Good luck. I love the pictures. And now I will hand it over to Robert to give us our amazing broker updates.
Thank you, Sarah. Happy holidays, everybody. I hope everybody's enjoying their holiday season so far. You had a good time off last week, spending time with friends and family, and you some Black Friday in, and you ate lots of turkey. I want to say hi from balmy Chicago. It's 28 degrees, but there's wind coming off the lake. So wind is making it feel like 15 degrees. It's butt cold when I went outside to go take my garbage out today, and I did not stay out very long. Anyway.
Told you so.
Hey,
Told
but
you
I'm
so.
the one in
Told you so.
Chicago. Yes, exactly. Come visit. We have a guest room and you're all welcome. So let's get into risk management for this month. So we're prepared to go. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Take that,
I was on
take
mute.
that as a yes. Okay. So we're covering November, December. Guess what? This is the last time you guys need to listen to me for the entire year about risk management. How excited are you? Carla Kiernan showed up today because she knew it was my last one, which is why she's here. because she can't get enough of Broker Bob. Here's what we're going to cover today. We'll talk a little bit of what's going on, hot topics at STAR, and we're going to review the top agents' mistakes on the RPA, and I'll show you some examples. And it's pretty common across the board, not only from our side, but outside agents. And if it does happen with outside agents, it's the duty of the agent on our side to correct it through counteroffers. And then, of course, I'm going to continue to mention the correspondence log because, I'm sorry, the 2022 Winter Forms Advisory and Update. Guess what? Every June and December, they come out with new forms and updates on the existing forms. So we're going to review a few of the new forms as well as some of the updates on some existing forms. There's a lot to go through, and there's no way I can get it all in the time allotted. All right, let's get down to what are we talking about at SCAR? Cybercrime. It is still, cybercrime is wire fraud. It is still on the rise. So I just want you to make sure that that wire fraud advisory is discussed at length with your buyers about when they're going to send their money in electronically to the escrow company, and make sure they follow the escrow company's instructions and confirm via voicemail. And I'm going to harp like this on blue in the face. If you're using an MSN or your own personal Gmail or Yahoo or whatever account, AOL, you're opening yourself up to having your emails linked. You're already actually, they're already in your computer. So the KW email address is secure and a controlled network. I always review this. What's the number one thing a buyer seller will say to me as your broker if they want to sue you in the brokerage? Your agent never told me that. That's why it's important to have a communication log that will be part of this presentation today. Digitally, we're going to send out the PowerPoint, but I'm not going to discuss the communication log this time. I just want you to be aware of it. That communication log is your digital trail of the conversations you have with people in regards to the nuances of the transaction. Anything significant like repairs, foundation issues, sewer issues, anything should be documented in an email to confirm that conversation with your principals. Okay, here are the top agents' mistakes on the RPA. Number one, RPA 2B, agency confirmation is missing the license numbers or the checkboxes are left blank. Item 2, APN number is missing. And I'm going to show you examples. I'm just breezing through this. Number 3, following that the represented capacity in RPA 32 or 33 is incorrectly completed. That is Mark's number one thing that he deals a lot of time on. And then number 4, the listing agent does not indicate in the RPA, this is the big one, that a counteroffer was issued. So we'll review that. And finally, finally, names and dates are left off the top of documents. I'll show you that. I'll actually show you some examples. I have removed names to protect the innocent because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I was going to put the actual contract on there. Then I'm like, no, I'll just stick with some fake stuff. So I made this up. It's an old purchase agreement with this agent because it was the property I used. I didn't realize he was the agent. But what's important here is the license number for Robert Realty, Robert Antonitis, Keller Williams San Diego Metro, and Robert Shantz. So each purchase agreement, all 4 of those need to be filled in. And if you haven't figured out yet how to find somebody's DRE license number when it's not auto-populated because you're not using MLS Connect, you just go to the DRE website and search for a license number and find out what it is. So it's really incumbent upon you to make sure you guys work really hard, but you're also paid a lot of money to make sure you're protecting your principals. And if this isn't filled out, the confirmation of agency, then it's got to go be corrected. And in Mark's reviews, he always says, please confirm agency using agency confirmation form. So you got to reconfirm it. So why would you want to do extra work down the road? Just do it right the first time and you won't have to get extra forms, which are already enough forms in the queue to deal with. This is the big one. APN number is missing. We've come across this, and that APN number is right here, 451-570-22-00. This is pretty, not common, but it happens maybe about 10 to 15% of the transactions that it's not input in there. Again, probably not using MLS Connect that will bring all the information in. Maybe they're just going off the MLS listing and putting it in that way manually, which is extra work on you guys. Get used to using MLS Connect. It brings it all in. Even if you use MLS Connect, you've got to double verify that everything came in properly, just to make sure. But if you leave it blank, then you got to go back and reconfirm it, add an addendum to the contract, which is more work. Okay. And then RPA 32 or 33 is incorrectly completed. This is also known as when an entity is a party to a contract and agreement. So 33 is right here. Oh, sorry. I have a link that I'm going to. Mark has made this fantastic document on how to, well, Carr did on this, how to complete when an entity is the buying the property. So an entity would be a trust, an LLC, a corporation, etc. And this document right here, this quick guide, and Mark, if you're on, can you drop that quick guide into the chat box? This actually shows you exactly how to fill out if it's the name of a trust. In this example, Bruce Wayne, if you guys are a Batman fan, trustee for Wayne Industries, Inc., with the property address. And then item B is the entity buyer. They list Bruce Wayne and Alfred as the legally authorized signers. So the name of the trust is put up in box 1A, and then in B is the actual person that's going to sign the documents. So Bruce and Alfred will be signing this. But then below that, you'll see where it says the signature line, printed name of buyer, Bruce Wayne trustee, and then Wayne Industry Inc., which is Alfred. Oh, I see what they did. So it's two separate buyers, two separate, one a corporation and one a trust. And then Alfred is the signer for the trust. And that's how it would be filled out if there were two people signing. Now, note of order on this. If you have a trust, you don't need the entire trust documents, but when you take the list, let's say you're representing the seller and it's the name of a trust, prior to your taking the listing or immediately thereafter, you get a copy, what's called the abstract of trust. It's one page within each trust. That abstract of trust shows who has the ultimate authority to purchase or sell this property. Of course, if you're representing a buyer, you're going to want to ask that up front if they plan on putting it in a trust, because you would want to write the offer in the name of the trust. And of course, the trust has to be a valid trust at the date that contract is consummated. They can't say, oh yeah, we're creating a new trust, but it won't be ready for a week. Great. Then we have to put it in the name of an individual buyer first, and then we can do some legwork down the road and transfer the purchase into the name of a trust. Ask that question up front before you write the contract. By the way, Mr. Buyer, do you think you're going to put this in a trust? And get that question answered, because if this happens and waits to the last hour, that's double work. In other words, every document needs to be re-signed by either the trustee or the person, the CFO, Alfred. So Bruce or Wayne, you have to go back and re-sign as the actual legal ability to do that. So basically, it's all new file, and most of our TCs will charge double for that because it's extra work on them. And I allow them to do that because that shouldn't be a 12th hour thing that they've got to go back and do double the work. If it's an entity seller, again, item B3 is the legally authorized person to sign on the behalf. And then section 4 is where Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent Smallville Family Trust. So we got some Clark Kent in here. The benefit of Clark Joseph Kent and Lois Lane, dated January 1st, Diana Prince, trustee. That's actually the name of their trust. So you would put that full name in there. And then the signature line will show Kent Family Trust, but Diana Price will sign individually. And then Clark Kent will sign individually. I'm not going to go through the rest of the example. Yeah, I can. Okay. Let me just make sure. Okay. So I talked about a trust, but let's talk about a corporation. If it's a corporation that's going to sell something or buy something, and if they're buying it, the corporation already has to be formed. There has to be a letter of authority written from the board that authorizes that individual to act on behalf of the corporation. And so something needs to come from the corporation in a letter format that shows that they have the authority to sign on behalf of ABC Corporation. Those are pretty rare, but it does happen, and it requires we go back and get that information. And sometimes the people that are with the corporation are less than cooperative because it's more paperwork that they've got to supply, but it's necessary in order for us to have a legally binding contract. Now, sometimes, as Mark will say, that escrow tends to say, well, we've got everything we need. We're fine with all that information. And you will hear that across the board with most escrow companies. Just because the escrow says it's okay does not mean it's okay for us. Meaning on our documents that we have in-house. So here's where this could play out. Let's say you take sell something in the name of a corporation, and you did not get that letter of authorization that allowed that person to sign on behalf of the corporation. Matter of fact, there's a case right now that John Fields and I know about in San Diego and Point Loma, that they're actually suing because the person in the corporation bought a property without authority, and now they're trying to sell it, and all the lawyers are involved. So what happens is if you don't get that abstract authority to prove that whoever is signing, then what happens post-close, exactly in the case I talked about that John Fields and I know about, is that all of a sudden everybody's lawyered up and the three people on one side are suing the other person on the other side that actually bought the property in the name of the corporation because they didn't have the authority. So now they're doing court action to actually sell the property. So it's kind of a mess, and it's something you don't want to have to deal with. So that's why I bring that up here. It's much easier from a perspective if you take care of this up front through following the compliance review guidance and information. It's spelled out. Now I know RDR. However, it's important that you read through that because it does spell out exactly what you need to do. And it just makes you look like a better agent. So remember that. Okay, and then this is the other one. The listing agent does not indicate on the RPA that a counteroffer was issued. So this box right here should be checked. And if it's not checked, but a counteroffer went over, then the other terms of the contract might not apply. The terms could apply in the counteroffer. How could this happen? Well, if the seller doesn't sign and say we sent a seller counteroffer, an SCO or an SMCO, the buyer could force the seller to sell for what's in the counteroffer. So be aware of that, and more court action starts to happen. And that's a pretty common mistake. I've made it, and I corrected it before I sent it, but it's one of those things that if you're rushed to get offers out and countered, make sure that that box is checked. We wish it was Zip Forms would actually ask the question, is this, if you add a counteroffer, they should ask the question, it should automatically check this box, but it doesn't. Wish it would. All right, here's the fun part. The names and dates are left off the top of documents. Again, names of agents have been removed to protect the guilty and or innocent. Who can tell me what's wrong with this document, this amendatory clause? What's missing?
RPA date.
Exactly. Pretty common. You've got to put in the date that the RPA is agreed upon. Okay. That's one of them. What's wrong with this one?
It's not referencing what contract we're going against.
Well, in this example, thank you, Dan. I'll just use the purchase agreement, but if it was a counteroffer or a buyer counteroffer, that needs to be labeled up there. You're correct.
The
But there's
date's
something
missing
else
again.
missing.
The date's missing again.
Yeah, another date gets missed. This is the most common things. And I'm actually getting this from not Mark, but from our transaction coordinators, because what do they have to do? They got to go in and correct it. And it's more work on them. So imagine when you're paying a certain rate for a certain service, but then that service requires extra effort on the TC, who works really hard for you guys to make sure the transactions are correct. Make it easier. You'll make your TC a lot happier. Trust me. All right, what's missing on this one?
Seller.
Exactly. This is actually a transaction we have with our office. And I removed the agent at the top. Unfortunately, I left the buyer's name in there. But yeah, there was no seller listed. So there's no reference to a seller. And this one again, this one is, of course, the date. Okay. So when you're sending out transactions, it's really important to slow down, make sure everything's filled out and filled in properly. Utilize the MLS Connect feature to bring all the information for the transaction inside your documents. So it's got the most of it filled out, will make your job easier. And then make sure that when you send it, I always used to have a second set of eyes look it over just to make sure. That's how protective I became with my stuff, because I made enough mistakes early on. And we all make mistakes. I made them too. So because I wasn't slowing down, and high Ds are probably the one most notorious for this. The compliant people, the high Cs, their transactions are flawless. So if you're a high D, kind of get a high C to look over your contract. Just a recommendation. All right. Here are the new forms, and I dropped this in the chat box earlier. Does everybody see it, the form in the chat box, or do I need to resend it? And I know you guys are messaging me, but I can't see the chat box and present at the same time. But I'm going to put this form back into the document. I'm taking a no response as you've all gone to sleep. So I'm hoping you're enjoying Broker Bob's nap time.
I'm
I
sure
would
they're
be
just
sleeping.
reading ahead. They're really going over the summary form and making sure they're set
Yeah.
all the pieces.
Right, I would be doing the same thing. So the purchase agreement that was updated this year, and it's labeled 622, has some revisions. I'm not going to go through all the revisions on this form. I'm going to discuss some of the forms that need to be notable. There's a new form called the Buyer Representation and Broker Compensation Agreement that replaces the existing the BRE. It replaces the BRE, the non-exclusive, which is called the BRNE, and the non-exclusive not for compensation buyer representation agreement, the BRNN. The new form does not have a note for compensation option. So Forms Committee and a group of brokers across the state spent months and months and months going through the buyer rep agreement to make it more updated. If you're aware, the disclosure of compensation on the MLS was part of a Department of Justice legal challenge that they wanted to let everybody know how much a buyer or broker will be making on helping that buyer in the transaction. By the way, here's a caveat. With that change, I want to make sure you never advertise your services are for free in order to get a buyer to work for you. They're not free. You are compensated by the selling broker commission. And that is now disclosed in some MLSs. It's in our MLS here. And it shows up on the IDX feeds on Redfin and Zillow, et cetera, in most cases. So the whole idea behind this is to make it more transparent and clear about how an agent is compensated, but also what their responsibilities are and what the buyer's responsibility is through the
I don't think they're gonna be
transaction.
able to buy here.
I hear a question?
5.5,
That's Amy.
3.5, 25 million.
Aim,
Oh, am I on mute?
no,
Who's speaking?
Amy Bloom, she's muted now.
Amy. All right. And
She's
then there's a
making sure
new
her offers
one.
are written the right way.
Good. Well, she said 5.5 million. I'm like, wow, she's dealing in some high value real estate, but that's Point Loma. She's probably selling some oceanfront place, or actually it's 10 blocks from the ocean at 5.5 and the price range is there. All right, so here's a few new forms. It's the anticipated broker compensation disclosure. It's a 3-part form. Enough said. There's also what's called a buyer transactional advisory. This form is bundled with the buyer broker agreement. It gives the buyer more information about the agent's responsibilities and those things that a buyer needs to take care of. And then this is a new form that I'm loving, the cancellation of buyer representation. And this has happened maybe about 6 or 7 times with our brokerage where a buyer wants to be let out of their buyer broker agreement and there's no form to do it. So I had to create my own form that said, okay, we're not going to hold you to the form. So now they created one, thank God. Another new one is the notice of broker involved properties. This form will be used at the termination of the buyer representation period if a protection period was provided or within 5 days after either buyer or broker cancels the BRBC. So what it means is the notice of broker involved properties. If you have a buyer broker and you had the protection period in there, let's say 30, 60, 90 days, but then the buyer broker expires, within 5 days, or within 2 days, you need to provide a list of all the homes that you showed that buyer so they can't go back and buy it from another agent. And that's the new form, the notice. So they made a form now, usually just made a Word document list. Now they have a form that in BIP. Who's excited? Show in the chat box how you're excited that there's more forms for you to fill out. I'm sure you're all just doing cartwheels. Yay, Bridget. Yeah, you're all excited. And then here's another one, seller payment for buyer's broker. If 3G in the RPA is checked, this form will be used to identify the amount of compensation the buyer is asking the seller to pay the buyer's broker. The buyer's broker will not receive double payment. Mark, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Whenever I get stuck, I say, help me analyze this.
Which form are we talking about? The seller's payment for
The
buyer?
seller payment, yeah, the SPBB. And I don't know what 3G3 off the top of my head is. I wish I had a photographic memory, but the new RPA is one of those things that is a lot to remember each section.
I could have turned it
I
into like a
think-
Jeopardy game.
I think, maybe, it's a little sometimes confusing in the listing agreement when the, 3A and 3D, they're the sum of the total amount of the commission. Maybe this helps clarify it for the buyer. I haven't seen
Well,
this form yet, so I don't know.
Yeah, so sorry, I caught you off guard, Mark. So we're all, and I've got samples of this. If you guys want to go to the CAR website, there's all the examples as well too, the drafts, if you're eager to learn. The next ones are lease listing, property management, rental property owner disclosure. We don't deal with that. So you don't need to worry about those forms. You can't manage properties with our office because we don't have coverage for that. And then there's a new form. It's not a new form, but it's the residential lease or month-to-month rental agreement. Oh, that's property management. So we don't deal with that. We use the residential lease after sale. This is property management. Here's a form I'm loving. The non-contingent offer advisory. Now, we're not in the market where it was pandemonium and everybody's out there trying to get their offers accepted and buyers are removing their contingencies, doing the appraisal gap coverage, not going to do inspection. Well, if you guys remember, if you were here during that time, I said, I'm worried about what's going to happen after this is over because all these buyers are out there making offers on properties and buying them, and they find out that there's massive amounts of internal structure damage to them, and they didn't get an inspection. And they're going to come back and sue everybody, because when they come back and sue, they pretty much name everybody. So this non-contingent offer advisory is if a buyer wants to make a non-contingent offer, in other words, they don't want a loan contingency, even though they're getting a loan, they don't want an appraisal, they don't want to do an inspection. You have to have this form signed and you need to discuss it with them as well too. That's the important part, is discussing it with them. And the advisory tells them of what could happen if they don't get inspection on the property or the appraisal, etc. New form you're grateful for if you have a listing with a solar. Now there is a form that a seller needs to fill out. It's called the Solar Advisory and Questionnaire. It's a two-part form. Paragraphs 1 through 5 describes the most common types of solar panel and system ownerships and leases, how payments generally work, what gets transferred with the sale, and importance of reviewing all documents and inspecting the system. The second part consists about the 20 questions that a seller should answer to the extent seller is actually aware of the issues. So the first part is really for the buyer to go through. The second part is all the questions and disclosure the seller has made, which is really helpful now, because if you are an escrow or you've ever dealt with a home that had solar on it and you had a challenge, you understand what I'm talking about. You guys are the most knowledgeable agents in San Diego County, but there's agents out there that don't understand how to take the listing if a solar and then make sure they have all the right material disclosures up front to give to the buyer. The buyer counter offer language was added to section 1B. And this is good. Language is added to 1B that seller credits in the offer remain unchanged if purchase price changes. The new paragraph clarifies the difference between the offer price and the appraisal contingency amount will remain the same, even if the purchase price changes. So that's a really good change on that. And then where that comes into effect, if you remember on the section where you fill out the amount of earnest money deposit, and I had an escrow officer call me because she had an escrow where the purchase price was greater than the offer price. And she wanted to know, because page 1 of the contract showed the earnest money deposit as a dollar amount as well as the percentage amount. So that was a fly in the ointment that the CAR forms didn't realize, and they fixed that. Cancellation of contract, if you ever unfortunately have to cancel one of your transactions. There's a proposed mutual cancellation language that's been setting a time for the recipient party to respond. If there's no timely response, the proposal expires. So this would mean shorten the period if the buyer needs to go because the sellers breached the agreement or vice versa, they can start doing their legal remedies quicker. The extension of time addendum, this form was changed from an addendum to an amendment. by adding paragraph 5, which establishes a time for the recipient party to respond. If there is no timely response, then it expires. And the mobile home advice addendum has been updated since we don't do a lot of mobile homes. And if you are doing a mobile home, that's your stuff. And then the RLAS was actually updated. That's the residential lease after sale. That is where you have to have this signed prior to escrow close. If it's 30 days or more that someone stays in the property, if a seller stays in the property, because 30 days or more, they then fall under California landlord tenant laws, and it would be virtually nearly impossible. I was more worried during COVID, but they have to follow the landlord tenant laws if the seller didn't move and decided just to hold the house hostage. So they made a few changes in that. Language that was added to the condition of the property paragraph for the seller tenant to acknowledge the condition is as is disclosed in the purchase agreement. And something about a smoker paragraph where seller tenant is not responsible for smoking damage that already existed at the time the lease commenced. And then the seller counteroffer language is added to 1B that seller credits and the offers remained unchanged, even if the purchase price changes. So they did the update with the buyer counteroffer. They did the update in the seller counteroffer as well as the SMCO, the seller multiple counteroffer. All right. Let me get to something. Sorry, guys, I'm pulling stuff up.
Well, while Robert's bringing that up, I just want to make a note on the bottom of this slide. It says CAR no longer monitors the legal validity of any form of a prior version. So there's that user protection agreement that they have in place when you are using CAR forms. And my point that I wanted to bring up is always start a new transaction. Don't copy an old transaction or rename an old one and reuse it, because guess what? You're using old forms, out-of-date forms. They no longer are eligible for the protection agreement. So it's really important you always start a new transaction for a new event.
And Mark, while you're here too, can you explain then the templates on their update when that happens?
The templates that you have installed that preload the forms into the transaction shouldn't need to be changed, except with the exception of what we talked about a little earlier with the buyer representation agreement. Because that form is dramatically changing, we're going to have to update the templates for that. And so we'll probably be doing that before the end of the year.
Let me see. I think I don't have the right form loaded. I don't, unfortunately, but it was the red line version. So I will, Eve, have you sent out the links for everything yet? If not, don't, because there's one other link. What I want to send you guys is the sorry, I'm trying to navigate through all this. Stop sharing my screen. I want to send you the link for the CAR website on where they have everything for you if you want to go through and look at the forms. I would definitely, I'll download the RPA and have Eve send that out with you so you can look at the red line version, meaning the stuff that's been changed in the RPA. Become aware of it so that when 12, 15, or 16 of this month, when it changes, that it'll be updated and using the new form, we'll move forward. And we'll let you know when that happens in our office calendar, via email, text, whatever, okay? All right, we went through a lot. We actually got it all covered, except for, I need to remind you guys, look at the email that Eve's gonna send with all the documents that we discussed today. And for communicating with me, it's my robschantz@kw.com. If you have my personal Gmail account, please discontinue using that because I've switched everything to the KW because it's a lot safer. And then, of course, I always want to remind people that please read Mark's initial reviews and final reviews. You're responsible if you take a listing or a purchase agreement to get the initial documents into Mark within 2 business days. And then any closing to have everything approved and have Mark do the final review 5 days or earlier if you have them prior to close of escrow so that he can do a final review. We've had a lot of last minute stuff close that the checks came in, but the reviews weren't done yet. And then you want your check. Our goal is to make sure you get your check as soon as possible. But we can't do that if we're not getting the documents right to do the final review. Okay, that's it. I want to wish everybody a happy Wednesday, and I hope I have some plane reservations out to Southern California coming soon. I can now get on a plane. So hope to see you all soon. in person.
Yay. Thanks, y'all. Happy Wednesday. Take your 5 minutes back and go out and do good in the world. See you next week.